Hi, it's Leo from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint simple designs and hand paint them in yourself and transpose it to all sides of your furniture and the top. So follow along and see how I created this beauty. Okay, so this is an Edwardian pot cupboard. This is what we bought the other day. It's pretty. I got two of them. They're different, slightly different, but they're both Edwardian. So what is a pot cupboard? Because a lot of people sometimes ask me. In ye olden days in the UK, you kept...
Probably in the same in the States and places, yeah, all over the world.
You kept your toilet pot, your pot, in this during the night. And this is an antique pot as well. So, I mean, I don't know whether it was a his and hers and they had one on each shelf. I don't know. But this is a pot cupboard. This is what happens to pot cupboards. They kept that and they kept these beside their bed. But they make fabulous, like, pieces if you want to do a lot of kind of painty artwork on plant stands, in a little bit of storage in a room, bedside cabinets, hallways. They have, and they sell well because they're just small. They're not big, massive, and people aren't having to think of it's going to be hundreds of pounds because you price them accordingly. So obviously, as the years go on and they kick about in the UK, they get cleaned and everything inside. There's nothing suspicious in here. It does need a good wash. I bought this week and I thought I would just kind of crack on and do it. What am I going to do to it today? I am going to firstly give it 2 coats inside and out with this colour here. Now, I can't for sure tell you what what is all in it, but if you can see this orange here, if you watch back my videos to one at the beginning of the year and it had a bit of texture and it was orange, I blended a different colour. It's a sort of terracotta and I think it involved Annie Sloane's paprika. I don't think there was anything maybe even mixed through it. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there was an orange in it. And from that, all I did was, you can see that tiny little streak of white. I had a tiny little bit of white in a pot. I just slopped into there with Annie Sloane's Capri Pink. Sorry, there's kind of crumbly things there and I don't want those to fall into my paint. With Annie Sloane's Pink, which has hit me upon this really nice kind of salmon-y pinky colour. It's just a really nice colour. And I think there's enough here to do 2 coats inside and out. So I'm pretty pleased with myself that I'm managing to use up this paint. And I think it'll work wonderfully with the design. I'm going to firstly give it a good clean. Then I'm going to paint it. I'm going to get Mark to take the handle off because this isn't going to be its forever handle. I'll get him to remove that, and then that way I can put something a bit more fancy schmancy on it at the end that kind of complements what I've done, hopefully. But this is too ornate for the paint finish that I'm going to be working on. Okay, so next time you see it, this beauty will be hot pink. Okay, so the cupboard has had 2 coats inside and out. Now, I put my tapes on like I normally do to be able to pull my drawer open and closed. But this is a tight fitting drawer, and when I pulled them, they just pulled right out of it. So what I've done is I got Martin to screw me a screw in here. Because, why? Because when I took the original handle off, which was too ornate for the look I'm going to have, there had obviously at some point been a latch mechanism and the hole was big. So it's been filled, but it was a massive hole to fill. So I want something that's going to span that part where it's not so perfect. So what I've chosen this handle, so when Martin goes to put my handle on, he will cover this screw hole with this part because it'll be screwed in from the other side. So when this goes on, it'll cover that. It's a way to combat. Normally the tape method works for drawers and things. You can just whack them in and out, but because this is such a tight fit, that's probably the only way. It was just to kind of let you know that it's a kind of thing. I don't very often do this, but sometimes it just has to be done. Now, I'll set that to the side because when it comes to handles, I'll have lost it later. What are we going to be doing on this? Let me just run you through the colours first. We're going to be using Florence, Original White, Capri Pink, maybe Tilton, Emperor Silk, Furl, Antibes Green, Giverny, and Provence.
Phew.
Yeah, that is a lot of colours there. This is one of those ones where you can use whatever colours you like, right? So let's just pop those back up here just now so we can move on to the next bit. And I will be doing it down on the ground, but I just want to show you how we're going to do it. Now, I've explained to you before about drawing things onto furniture. Excuse me, sorry. It's not as easy with a piece of chalk to draw something out and have it just slick. Chalk's quite thick, and I tend to draw it on with a pencil. However, if you've done multiple mistakes and you don't quite like it, you're gouging into your finish with the pencil. Plus, pencil marks are hard to get rid of. So one way I do it is I just use carbon paper, but I draw my design. So I measured this side here. I measured it and went to the kitchen table and just sat and draw something that made me happy, because that way you're relaxed, you can draw it out, you've got plenty of time, you've drawn it out in pencil, you know there's no mistakes, and then that way you can just transpose it. So I've shown you this before, but I just used carbon paper, just plain carbon paper. What I did today was I got some tacky spray, sprayed the back of my template and just stuck my carbon paper onto it so that I could cut it out, because this shape is going to go here. Just remember, if you're using carbon paper, to put the black, pure black, not the grey side, face up. Ask me how I know that one, because it's nothing more soul destroying than going around your whole design, pull it off and going, it didn't work.
Where is it?
I have done that, I must admit. So, learn from that. Now, I want to be putting this design on here, yeah? And I'm going to turn around now because this is where it could all go horribly wrong for me. I want it pretty sort of central. Right, okay, so I'm just going to tape that up here. Once I've taped it on, I can have a better idea. And I'm using the frog tape, and it's the Delicate Finishes one. It says on it, delicate surface, which means that this has had 2 coats and it's touch dry, and it feels warm at the touch. So I would imagine it is probably pretty dry. It's sitting beside a heater, but it's not like the time I did the chair and I was looking for distress. I don't want any distress in this piece. The only person that's going to be distressed is me if this isn't quite right. I don't think it is quite right. I'm just going to do this. It's these edges here that I'm going by. Yeah, right, there we go. I'm thinking that and that looks pretty good. There we go. Right, so I've got my design on and I'm quite happy with this. What I'm going to do now is, and you've seen me do this before as well, so you can tell by the way this video is going, it is going to be a hand-painted piece. Huzzah. I like the hand-painted pieces. They take a long time, but they're fun to do. Hence the reason why it's a tiny little pot cupboard. So then once you've got this on here like this, you can start, even through your tape, if you use a ballpoint pen, and if you draw your original design in pencil, it means that, oops, it's a bit wobbly. It means that, sorry, I'm at a really weird angle, but it means that when you go to draw it on, you can actually see it, so you know you've been there before. There we go. Now, I am going to have to go around the external edge as well, but I'm just going to use the pen, and I know that's really cheeky, but I am quite cheeky, so we're all right. Somebody left a comment and said, why do you just keep using a pencil when you tell other people not to do it? And basically it's because I've done it so many times, and I kind of know what I'm doing. I know the fixes if it doesn't go right. If I was you, I recommend chalk, just so you've got it right. So I'm going to go on and do this now, because you don't need to see me do the whole piece, but just so you can see that it is transposing, I'm just going to do some of these. Also as well, when you're drawing out your design, it's time that you can use some artistic license. Sometimes I change it on this as I go. If I think, but I'll just show you this. I'll just come down around this side here. Chalk paint isn't easy to draw on smoothly with a ballpoint pen. Can you see that? Yeah. So I'm going to get on. It's a peacock, in case you can't tell. It's a strange looking peacock, but it is a peacock. A hand drawn by me peacock. It's got some flowers and things in it. We're going to do some peacock here. We're gonna do detailing in here, detailing around there, the sides and the top. So it's all going to be happening. So I'm going to get on and I'm going to do my peacock now. Okay, so I've got it on its back now and I'm just about to take the tape off. Voila! And you can see my peacock. Well, it's a kind of suggestion of a peacock. Now, down here on my palette, you can't see it, but I've got some Florence, which is this colour mixed with Antibes green. So it's a sort of turquoisey, but a lighter turquoisey, if you know what I mean. That's the official term. So I'm going to just start by filling in my peacock. Not the feathers or the tail, just the body. I picked colours that I thought would really complement the coral and give it quite a sort of jolly feel. Now, I don't know yet whether I'm going to line this. I don't think I am. So if you feel it's kind of hard to push around on top of the chalk paint, if you're using chalk paint, then you can, I'm going to need a smaller brush. You can add a little bit of water to your paint just to make it flow better, if you think that's going to help you. I normally put a little bit of water in, but I haven't watered this down. Trick of this is trying to kind of brush out your brush strokes as you go so that they're not too obvious. But it is nice on a hand painted piece for it to look like it's been hand painted. So really, for this peacocky part, I'm just gonna, you can see I'm going up to the carbon paper line because I'm not planning right now to line it. So I'm wanting to kind of get rid of that line. Take it in there. Now, I think we'll be okay with this green, but there might be some colours. I'm just going to add a little bit of water in my paint, help it move a bit. There might be some colours that we're going to have to give two coats to, but the green on the pink should be fine. You just kind of have to, when you're doing something like this, play it by ear. Some might need two coats, some might not. So let's just tidy this up here. And there. Take that to that edge there. Like that. I'm just going to add a bit of water. For edges in particular, you want your edges to be quite smooth, so you can add a little bit of water to your paint to get your edges just on fleek. Like that. And he's got, you can't see the rest of his neck because he's behind the flowers. Now, I am not going to make you watch me paint this whole thing out. So we'll quit there because I'm going to be going right down to this part here with the green, just so you've got an idea where all this here part here is going to be green. So take that, I'll put that there so you've got an idea. Now I'll clean my brush off. And on my mat now I have a little bit of Capri Pink and a little bit of Old White because I'm looking for a pink. I want quite a light pink, so I've added quite a lot of white to it. I'm just mixing it, just in case you can't see what I'm up to down here. And I'm going to do sort of alternating, like one pink flower and one red flower, if you know what I mean. I think even you could go a little bit lighter on this pink. Let's see if I can just kind of add that in as I go. What is the secret to doing things like this? There really isn't one. This is a really good beginner's sort of, this is a beginner's piece, this one, you know, like if you've got a kind of simple, make your design simple. You can see mine's is pretty simple. There's nothing complicated. That sort of folky art sort of style. It kind of just kind of, it's just about having the right sort of brushes. Don't pick in a brush that's too big. That's not going to work. And just taking your time. It's not a, this is not a sprint, this one. It's not something you can rush through. But the right sort of brushes will help you get, will help you get the beginning done. Now there is going to be detail obviously in these flowers. I've just covered it up with the paint, but so they're going to be this colour, and I thought the one beside it, this one here, now this might not show and we might have to adjust this, but I wanted a red in this piece as well. I can also, you can darken up your red. I mean, the easiest way to kind of darken it up is if I just dip my brush quickly in a little bit of the peacock colour, and you can see that I can darken that red up. It's got a bit green. Let's add a bit more red. I'm now mixing it on the piece, which is not something you should do. You should mix it on your palette. So this is the sort of, I was going to kind of almost pop. I'm going to have to go back over that. It's not, I don't want it as dark as that. Let that one dry, and we'll go over to this one here, and I'll put the dark coat colour on, and then what I can do is I can just dip back in the red and redden this one up. So I'm going to go on. I'm going to do the peacock. I'm going to do the flowers. I'm going to do these leaves in furrow, which is this colour. And then by the time I've done a wee bit more, we'll come back and we'll get the border on and we'll get the feathers done. I won't race too much ahead, but I'll do a fair bit, because if not, it's good. But we're trying to get out of this stage so that we can get to these edges painted, so that we can get into a fancy border, so that we can work our way out to here. And I think I'm going to have this same design on both sides, and maybe just maybe nothing on the top. We'll see how we go. I don't want to have too much, but then you want a decent enough pattern. Okay, so I've started to kind of paint it in as much as I possibly can without you guys getting lost. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do the sides, because after I've done this, I'm going to get Martin to put a camera up so you can see this happening. Because I always feel with hand painting stuff, it's like, oh, I'm doing this little bit and then back and a little bit and back. Whereas this way you can see it actually happening.
And I'll just put some music over it.
Yeah, just so you can see it happening. The majority of the front anyway, sort of real time. So all I did there was I got a piece of a cereal box and I measured it to this lip. Can you see that it's the same width? I'm thinking of this shape up here, because it's always good if you can have the same shape playing out in your furniture. And I've cut out this sort of shape here. So if we say this is about the centre, what I'm going to do is, and I am going to use pencil this time, but obviously you can use chalk, is I'm just going to draw this shape all the way down my piece of furniture. The reason why I started in the middle, because I didn't measure, as per usual. I didn't measure the width of this. So when we get down the bottom, if you start in the middle, you can have a half on each side, as opposed to getting down and you've not quite got enough for any of that. So, or that is hopefully the plan. So you can see me just doing this. I'm just going to go down as far as the bottom corner, and then it's just something else to paint in. What am I going to be doing on the main picture? I'm going to be going back over this green. I said I would only do a little bit and then come back, but then I got kind of into the flow and realised that, and that was why I said to Martin, do you know, I kind of get into it and then I forget to shout him again to come back and film me. And I thought, if I do it this way, at least you're seeing it kind of happen as we go. And then when I get to the bigger parts, see what I mean? So you're not going to get a full one in there. So I can cut this in half when I get up the top, but you can see me do this on camera. So I'm going to be redoing these in green, and I'm going to be doing the berries, and I'm going to be doing this round here, painting in here, and painting in here. So it's going to be quite a lot speeded up. And then what I can do is I can show you this pattern will be going over here, and we'll do a whole new pattern for here. Yeah, so something like that. So I'll get Martin to stop the camera and set us up to go. I won't be putting any of the like the detail, like liner or how I'm going to choose a liner. I will be lining this in white, not black, and I won't be doing any of that on any of the sides until the very end. Okay, so just with that little fast forwarded bit, then you're not missing anything. Sometimes I think with the painted looks, it's just tiny little snapshots where it's, you know, when you see it kind of evolve. Now, obviously, this part on this side was the side nearest to me, the camera side. I wasn't wanting to lean over it, so I'll be recreating this pattern and painting it here and doing the white round there. But before I finish for the day, because off camera I'm going to do the whole of the white and the green. But before I do that, I thought I would line it so that you've got an idea. And do you know what? I decided just to use Poscas. That Poscas is quite good for tidying up your sort of untidy edges as well. I saw that needed a little bit of... Right, okay, so I don't want... Can you see these tiny little bits marks there? That's where the carbon paper's been, and I'll touch those up at the end. But so far that I've got to touch those up, and I've touched a little bit here. I tend to get them all at the very end and not worry about them as I go, but just kind of remember where they are so that you can fix them. So I'm just going to... I'll start down here with the kind of... sort of lining out his body. I'll just take this flower around here as well. So why am I lining in white when I normally line in black? I just didn't want to have black on this piece. So I decided that this was probably the way that I could create something quite cheerful and not line it. Now I'm just going to do this. This is very, very crude, very simple, just like that for the leaves. Nothing complicated. And because I'm kind of holding my pen at the end, I'm getting a wee kind of dot. Let's just do this one as well, just so you can see it. I mean, I lined all these with a liner, and I thought, well, when it comes to actually showing you, obviously, if you're getting into lining and doing hand painting, then just use a liner. Now, okay, let's just do these flowers here, and then they'll start to make sense. Sorry, Marty, I'm at a really funny angle. Yeah. Martin's back.
Sorry for the slightly jerky camera movement. I'm just trying to get into some tight spaces.
Oh, they'll be glad you're back, Martin. They like a bit of Marty pattern. I've got Eddie with me as well. Eddie was with me when I was painting this, he was sitting behind me, and we were having a sort of tug of war of who had the most space. Eddie kept winning. He shuffles around until he moves you, doesn't he?
He does.
So just something like this. These are just fun roses, simplified, make it easy. Right, so I'm going to have these. I'm just going round everything. You can use an even finer one. This is the 3M. This is the 3M. But if you wanted to have this even finer, sorry, my foot keeps getting really hot. It's just that I had my heat tool on a minute ago and keep leaning my foot in it. If you wanted it even finer, you could use something like this, and that'll make an even finer line if you're wanting something even finer. But I want people to see this, you know, from reasonably kind of not far away, but you know, I want them to be able to see the design. Now, let's just kind of work out what I did here, because who only knows. Because you could put your carbon back on the top to remember where you've been before, but well, you know, I'm just winging it.
Go freehand.
Yeah. I wish you could see what I could see. Eddie's staring at his daddy like he's going, Daddy. He's just staring at him.
Good boy.
Daddy. Now, round like this. So I understand, but sometimes when I do a painted finish look, it's not always as exciting, and it doesn't have the wowie factor as some of the other things, but the effect at the end is totally wowie. And so you just have to kind of dig in with it. And I know that you're probably thinking this is boring, but it's actually, you'll see it evolve.
Yeah. You get what you pay for, and sometimes what you have to pay with is effort.
Yeah. And people sometimes really just enjoy that it's been hand painted. Here's me, but I'm using Sharpies, Poscas, but it's majority is all going to be hand painted. So yeah, you get a circle around there now, and this is your time if you're not happy with any of your edges to do that. I'm going to go around the whole thing, but I'm not going to watch me going around it all to tidy up this edge as well. Now, you've seen me do the berries, but the berries are just pretty bog standard. I thought what I might do, because I quite like the berries once they've been done, and it's a bit unusual in this sort of kind of like folk arty style to have sort of berries. I mean, you don't very often see that, but I wanted something that gave it some movement and a bit of flow, and I thought berries will. But I think I'm going to put berries down round the edges of here, I think. Right, so let's get up here. I'll kind of shuffle this down a bit and see if I can get, I just don't want to be leaning anywhere with mine. Eddie's really getting into Daddy now. He's like, Daddy.
That camera movement is this thing here. Trying to get me to give him a stroke. Like, Eddie, get back. Good boy.
So I probably will do something in the centre of the little parts at the top of the peacock's head here, but what it's going to be and what colour, I mean, probably when I say I'm going to do something in the centre, it'll probably be another circle. just because it kind of works with the overall flow. There's quite a lot of circles on this, so see, when I've gone outside the edge there, I'm going to have to come back in and fill that a little bit more with some of the Florence paint and round, and then that takes me back round to my leaf and round, and I'll do that flower in the middle, his eye. Just going to give this a shake. So I'll probably put his pupil in black. It might be the only black thing. And I'll just do this. I know you don't want to see me do all of it, but
I've got it under control now.
Have you?
Yeah. Look at this tail, look. That's because I'm scratching behind his ear. He'll stay where he is now while I do this.
He was being such a good boy when I was just like filming the painting there with the camera on. Because quite often, normally we put him in the kitchen, and I'd said to Matt, "No, just leave him, he'll be fine." But obviously, when the camera comes around, it's all too much for him. I think he thinks maybe we're talking to him. Right, but you get the picture of what I'm doing now. I'm just filling it out, and it's the good thing about this look is it's very simplified. This is why I'm saying this is a beginner's sort of something you can do. I'm going to come around here in all of my edges because I don't want to see anywhere that carbon line is. So this will just tidy it up a little bit. But I can do that off camera. I've got those berries still to do, but pretty much apart from I thought I would do, let me just fill these parts in. I thought I would do this on my, to kind of represent the parts of the feathers. This was a kind of what I had in mind in my head a minute ago. I haven't even tested it out, I'm just doing it now. So a sort of long one and some shorter ones on this side, something like that. And again, because I've got a lot of circles, I'm doing the sort of, even the lines and the feathers with a little sort of dot at the end. I don't know what I've been quite doing with this feather here, but we'll make it move like that. And that gives it a bit of movement. And take that around here. I mean, you can literally, this is endless. You can do something different every day of the week. You just need to start with a really simplified drawing like I did. And I mean, it is really very, very, very simple. It's just a quick doodle. That's all it is. I think this here is another leaf. I'm kind of missing this one here. I don't know why these feathers are going the oh no, they are going the right way. Right, so off camera now, I'm literally going to go away and just recreate the white and the green pattern on this side and finish these berries, tidy up this white, and that'll probably be enough for tonight, and tomorrow we'll start fresh. When I start tomorrow, I'll probably have traced the same design on the two sides. Probably won't show you me painting them in again because I've done this, but it'll be the same on this side and this side. Something different on the top, and we've still got pattern to put here, 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 and the top. So there's still plenty to show you. Okay, so that's it for just now. Okay, so with these kinds of looks where there's a whole load of repetition, just kind of to recap, things like getting little bits of card, making templates, things like that, recreating what's already in the main design and moving it out. That always works really well. The eye makes sense of it and they can see that it's a pattern. So we left it last night and I was going to paint in the two sides. Now you can see up in here is messy. But this area here, this lip down into here, this will be taped off and here will be taped off and in here will be painted to make a nice clean line in there, because this is not a distressed look. This is not a, oh, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see that. This, when it's a piece like this, it's got to be bang on. So what am I doing now? I've this leaf shape here, I've just kind of drawn the same sort of thing in the corner. And then all I'm doing is a line and a line and a line and a line, a line, a line. And this is just going to kind of follow on from what's in the pattern, because on the end of each one of these, I'm going to do a berry so that there's a bit of movement in the pattern now. You don't have to be perfect when you sketch them or when you chalk them in, but it kind of helps that if you know where you're going with them. One up here, and I'm just going to do the same here so that it kind of moves. Some of this kind of filament, and I was saying this yesterday, can be a little bit boring, so I'm not going to make you endure every single piece of repetition. So if the berries are going that way, this way, let's have the berries going this way on the bottom so that it's a little bit different, and just fill that in. As I said, your chalk drawing doesn't have to be perfect as long as you know where you're going. Right, so the eye, I was going to do the eye last night, and I kind of, on a bit of paper, decided, did I want a circular eye? What can I? But I thought I wanted quite a cute eye. So I'm just going to do something like this. I think that's quite cute. Right, so that's the eye done, and that's the only part that I think will be black in the piece. I did start to put some spots on this white detail here, but it was just a kind of, I was just fiddling around to see how that was going to work. So I painted my pink circles in, and I'm going to be, let me just get a decent brush for this. This isn't going to work. You know the circle, now you're breaking this down into simplicity. The circle on a peacock feather, it kind of goes out in gradients. This circle is trying to represent that. So I've got the Giverny, which is the bluest blue I'm using. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this circle down to the bottom of my edge circle here, like this. The light's not. I think there's something wrong with my eyes. And again, if you think that your paint's not moving the way you'd like it to, just give it a squish with water, and that's what I'm just about to do, because just to give it a bit more. Thing is, if you water down your paint, then you're probably going to have to give everything 2 coats, but sometimes that's not, that's not a bad thing. If you're in it to win it and you're going to be doing all the pattern anyway. So I will be coming back and putting a light green circle in these. Make sure you've eradicated any pencil lines or chalk lines. Well, chalk lines are different. So that's going to be, can you see what a difference that's made already? So when I put my little green dot, I could try it, but I mean, I know the paint's wet, just to kind of give you an idea of how it's going to look. I'll put it on quite thick, and then it will hopefully not move around too much. So something like that. Yeah. So the 1, 2, 3 circles, that's more of your pattern again. And it kind of, everything in here is kind of translated out here. So I'm going to get on and I'm going to paint in my my leaves, the Givany, which is the lime green, which I used in here. And once I've painted those in, I'm going to do the berries. And then we're going to work on, before I finish and tidy everything up on the front and on the sides, because I hadn't really planned to do the line out last night. I just thought it would show you, save you being too bored, you know, what it was going to kind of look like once it'd been lined out. But I planned to do all the lining at the end. But all the things like the fixing here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on the sides, because the sides need a little bit of work, because I don't have the same amount of framing. Now I can probably turn this on its side to show you. Right, so on this side here, what has happened, I used a pencil to go around the outer edge. First of all, I put my tape on. Now it's the tape for delicate surfaces, as I said, so it doesn't pull my paint off, because I want to recreate a white band. So this here, I'm going to paint in white, and I've transposed my pattern on it again. Now, I would recommend, if you're doing this and you're getting a little bit confused where you've been before, if you can use different coloured biro pens, ballpoint pens, because then that way you can see where you've been the time before. I'm only going to have to use this one more time for the other side, because we'll recreate a whole new pattern for the top, which will be sort of more this, but condensed square so that it fits on the top. So there's my design, and it's been put on here. Well, I've missed the eye part, but that's okay. I can put that back in. I didn't put the centres of the flowers in at this time, because we know we're going to put those in. So what do I have to do now? I'm going to paint in this. I don't want to have paint on all different sides while I'm working, but just for the sake of argument, I'll show you. So I'm going to paint in this lime white. Now, I don't know how you feel about things like this, but this isn't the cheap masking tape that you get from the pound shop. And I use the cheap stuff all of the time. But for a finish like this, where you're wanting it to not pull your paint off, I would use it. But the thing is, I think this is quite expensive. So what I do is, I'm just going to take this mat, when this is dry, I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to just use the same masking tape for the other side, so that I'm not using tons and tons and tons of masking tape. So I'm maybe thinking a wee bit more about the environment. If you just keep using it and using it and using it, and plus I'm Scottish and I'm frugal, and I'm thinking I don't want to keep on using loads of it. So I'll just be using the same stuff for the other side. I mean, I can actually even do this part without my glasses. I'll be giving this 2 nice solid coats, because what we're going to do on this edge is we're going to come in again with our template, and we're going to do our template around this edge. I'm not going to labour too much on the sides, because the sides are pretty much going to be what you've seen on the front. It's just that because I don't have the framing or the wood or the cupboard door, I'm having to kind of recreate my own sort of frame, and that's all I'm doing here. But I need to do this part before I can do this part, because as you can see, this has gone over the tape, and I'm going to have to put my template back on, just so that I can make sure that that's all correct at the top. So that's it. That's what I'm doing. So what I'll be doing is, I'll be off camera for a while now. I'll be doing this side and the other side. I will continue on and just do this pattern as well, like you've seen in the front, because you've seen that. When it comes to this bottom band, I'm not sure whether I'm keeping it this colour, or we're going to be grounding the furniture onto the ground with a darker colour. I very rarely would make this lighter, so white's out, although white plays quite a part in the design. So I'll do this side, the other side, and then we'll come back, flip back round, because the front will be all caught up, and I'll have done the berries. We'll neaten up the front, we'll decide what we're going to do with this band, and then we'll draw a whole new pattern for the top. I think that's by order of the day. It's quite a lot to do. You just have to keep jumping about, but you'll get there. Okay, just so that you're not missing anything as I go along, I'm just showing you what I'm doing next. So when I last left you, I was filling in the dots on this sort of emulated kind of like peacock feather with a circle. And I was going to be putting the berries down the side, which I did. This pattern here, I decided was probably work for this side and this side. So I've painted them in ready. So that's the next part. So what did I do? I did my pink, you saw me drawing the lines. I just filled the pencil lines with the green, with a thin green Posca. It's the greenest I've got that goes with the overall design and isn't too just, it doesn't just shout at you. I'm going to need a white. But on my palette, I'll just clean my brush. On my palette, I've got some of the Furl colour, which is the limey green. Now, top tips for when you're doing things like this. There's a kind of a few of them. If you've got a palette that is quite, like mine's is a mixed matte, I'll get matte. I know it's messy, but I'll get matte to kind of show you down what it looks like. So down on the floor here, I have my palette. Yeah. One of the ways to keep it from drying up is if you spray it every so often, spray your palette with just a little bit of water like that. And that way you can keep on using it and you're using less paint. So if you spray over the top with water, and just remember when you go to use it, so I'm going to be using the green, if you just kind of mix in that water, that'll keep your paint ready to use for while you jump from one colour to the next. Second one, there is no, like, this is a, for me, this is one of those finishes. There's no distress. There's no room to go, oh, well, it doesn't matter there. Any little bit might show. So you have to go slow and steady. That's why the shapes are very simple, because it means that you can recreate them over and over again. Don't try and do something this on a massive piece of furniture if you're just starting out with a complicated design, because you'll only get one drawer front probably done and you'll have lost your mind, because it is repetitive. How can you stop the monotony? Because you're so happy once you've done a panel, but how can you stop it? I listen to audiobooks, or you could listen to music. I don't listen to music when I'm painting, but you can listen to music, audiobooks, have something on in the background that kind of, because you kind of get into that flow, and that helps. The most important thing that I think about when I'm doing something like this is the brush shape. I watch lots of people trying to hand paint things and reels and things, and I go, because people tend to think they pick too big a brush for the shape that they're painting in. I mean, I've got lots of artist brushes, but there's only 3 that I have on the go right now. One is this size. So this is the sort of one I use as a kind of, this is my, I'll sit it on there so you can see it. This is my sort of every sort of shape brush. This one, you can see it's quite small. My liner brush, which is for really fine things. And the last one that I have, which is good for flat edges, is this one here. So if you're taking things into an edge, a flat ended brush is the one. You can see none of these brushes are massive.
Excuse me.
They're all about the right sort of size. Just make sure if you're using something this size here that you're sweeping over to get rid of your brush strokes. You don't mind some brush strokes, but you're not going to have heavy amounts of brush strokes. But you shouldn't need a huge amount of brushes either. Masking tape. A masking tape for this sort of finish is your friend. And just dig in and just take your time. I've been at this now for quite a while, just so that I can get you the footage as we go along. But I've only really got to the front, which isn't complete yet, and this side, which I'm just working on now. So, you know, it's kind of slow going, because you're pattern upon a pattern. So for the likes of here, what I do if the pink's on but I want to put the blue on next, but the pink is wet, I'll work somewhere else. If I'm wanting to do something else here, I'll work up here. Always kind of work somewhere else, or just flip it on its side. Just make sure the side that is facing you, if you're leaning over. Turning your work, it's the same like when you work in ceramics. Turn your work, don't turn your body. That, especially if you're doing things kind of all the time leaning forward, don't start to lean over your piece. That's how you'll hurt your back. Just moving and handling, turn your piece and not yourself, and then that way you'll not get so sore when you're doing this. That's it. Let's do these little leaves on here now. So for the little leaves, I'm going to need a bit more water on here. A bit more of this furrow colour on my palette. And what I did with this is, because I felt the berries were kind of running down. I just picked parts of where I wasn't exactly thrilled. So I didn't like that join. So if I do something like this, I could put my little leaf in there. Gonna need a bit more water on my brush. Now I've got too much paint on it. So I just kind of went down and did this sort of, just to kind of give it a bit of movement, link it up, and it's a nod to the little green leaves that are in the actual design. So there's a join there that I don't like, so I'm going over there. And I guess this is just, you know, what you want to do, really. It's not really, you know, it's not difficult. It's just getting something that you like. These liner brushes, the really thin ones, hold quite a lot of paint. You can paint for quite a while before you have to keep dipping in, and that also saves time. The more you're kind of messing around with your paint on the palette, the longer it's going to take. So, you know, kind of load up, but don't overload that it drips on your work. There was a couple of bits that I fixed, like I showed you that yesterday where I had missed a bit there. There was a couple of little parts that I wasn't happy with my pen, and I'd fixed that. So I've kind of done the fixes as well as I've gone along, so that, you know, you can get them all at the end, which I quite often do, but I'm doing a fix on each space, so on the front as I go. So that's all I'm doing there, and that's just a matter of using your brush, putting it down so you're going kind of thick, twirly, and off at the edge to get you a nice leaf.
Get that again somewhere so I can get really close in.
I could probably show you better on a bit of paper. Sometimes a bit of paper. And you get a board, practice on a board. So if you're going to do a leaf, you're putting it on because that's going to give you your tip. You're pushing down, which gives you your kind of width of your leaf, and that's it. So you're putting it on, pointy bit, pushing down and removing, pushing on, flattening it down and removing. That's just the same sort of, you want to make it a bit bigger, you can just extend it out like that. But that's a kind of good, clever way to do leaves. Leaves are things that you can fill things up with pretty fast. It's quite a fast one. So I did the corner leaves, painted those in. Because I don't want to have a lot of different liners on it, and I'm not really choosing to really go for it for the liner. I'm only really using this green. What I did with the little berries then was I just kind of did something like this, and just give them a little bit of movement, kind of fine work as opposed to, you know, like something kind of thick. And when it comes to the sort of fine stuff, we can talk about this in the end, but I've also done that along here on the peacock feathers and gave that a little bit of, where my little spot was, I just came in and I put my green on these ones here. Don't make it difficult for yourself. If you want to do a white dot, just use the end of a paintbrush. That just kind of speeds up the process a little bit. So these are kind of like this. And I've got these finished on the sides, because on the sides what I did with these was I just got the liner and I basically just did, it's just a sort of nod to a peacock feather. I know it's an interpretation, shall we say, of a peacock feather. So that, like that. So you're not missing a whole heap much, apart from I've put these shapes here. I'm trying to get the other two sides done so that we can start working on the base. I think I've decided this base, in fact, I'll just show you this now so that when I come back on camera, I'll see if I've got a wide enough brush to do it. This part down here is going to be the peacock colour. I won't be painting it with this paintbrush, but it's just so, I'm going to be taping this. So this is the tape, the masking tape that I'm reusing. So I just want to put that into that little gap there and run my nail down in there so that that's all covered. And I'm just going to be doing this the peacock colour. And I'll do the sides, so the sides of this are the peacock colour as well. I think it's just going to give it a little bit of grounding. I quite like a dark colour when it's quite an ornate thing. I quite like a dark colour. Now, I haven't got the right paintbrush for this, but it's just so you can see it before I go off camera. There. So that's going to be that colour there. Yeah. And we'll probably have, I'll be introducing another sort of shape probably on the top. And I'm going to actually show you me drawing. I mean, that could be interesting. Taking this design, which was the doodle, and making it square for the top. I'll show you how I would kind of do something a little bit different to make it. All we need is a piece of paper that's the size of the top, and I'll show you how to make a template and everything for it. And I'll take this design and I'll show you how I would draw it. There'll be a lot of rubbing out and doing it, but just so you know what I think about when I'm doing something like that. But I promise the next time you come back, the two sides will be done. You'll know if I've achieved it. If I've not got the same clothes on, then this has ran into yet another day. I'm nearly finished that side, so I've only really got this side here. I'm getting so stiff. My legs are starting to hurt.
More coffee.
Yeah, fueled by coffee and audiobooks. There's only so many dragons and wars you can listen to, but there's an awful lot of dragon and war books out there. Right, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Obviously, this side was, and sometimes you can run into a bit of you're not quite sure what to do here. Because there wasn't a lip there and we pretended that there was, this left me quite a big gap here and here. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting a sprig of the berries here and here, and literally all I'm doing is something that kind of follows this sort of shape, and then just kind of just think about where you maybe would like your berries to go. It's going to give it a nice movement, just something like that, and the same here. So I'm following that shape and thinking about where I'd like my berries to run. Yeah, just something like that. And then obviously the berries are going to go in the end, but I won't bother drawing them in because I can just paint them in. And I'm still obviously doing this same shape all the way around. And obviously this is going to be the green now. So it is coming along. It's just slow. I think when we've got it as far as we can take it, I might get a liner and do some detail on the peacock. I might just leave it as it depends what it looks like. I'm really, really liking it. I like a nice piece of hand painted furniture, but it just, if you're going to be doing this, just start really small. In fact, a cupboard door even, because it's repetitive.
Yeah.
It's repetitive.
Yeah, something with just one side.
Yeah.
As opposed to three sides.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much work to do it, doesn't it? And then
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to do it again.
Sometimes there's fast ways, although it still takes a long time. Like when I do a distress finish on a great big dresser and I'm using multiple stencils and multiple stamps, it does take an awful long time, but you do see progress. When it's something like this, it's very difficult to see any progress. Martin's just came out and spoke to me before and said, how's it going? And I said, well, it really doesn't look like I've done that much more since you last spoke to me, but I actually have. It's just that it's just slow progress. He also offered in the kitchen over lunch to come and paint this for me.
I was joking.
And he was a bit worried that he would even get as far as these spots.
I said, see these things here? I could try and do those, but they wouldn't look like that.
So I declined the offer. I said, no, it's fine. I've got it. So I'll get on and do this, get the two sides done. I'll get the green on the end of here, and then we'll start maybe thinking about what we're going to be doing on the top. And obviously I still have to, I've obviously went and painted this green now, but obviously I think I'm going to be doing the green. I think the only colour for in here right now is going to be same green as the bottom, the Florence Antibes green mix. So that'll be there. So I'll need to wait till my masking tape's dried off again, because I'm just sticking it all onto the cupboard door and reusing it because I am that tight. Yeah, be frugal.
Yeah.
The rest of it stuck to the back of Martin's stool.
I'm sitting on it, yeah.
I said, don't stick on my masking tape. So anyway, I'll see you in a wee bit.
Yep. And while she's doing that, I'll go back to my comfort zone, which is technology and editing videos and things.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a whole load of repetition there, and I think I've covered everything. The last thing I did that you didn't see was I just painted in that lip with the green. This side has been done, and this side has been done. So we're at that stage now that I'm going to be showing you my thoughts on how to get this onto the top. Now, I did think about this as I was doing it, thinking if even just you start with this shape, even if you're just starting out and you start to get a template and you make a little template and you start with the shape, but if the inside is a struggle, you could use IOD's inlays, the Debbie Beard inlays with the birds on. You could do that in the middle, or you could use IOD stamps. They do a primitive stamp and it's got birds and things on it. So if you start small and do some hand paintedness and then just use other little things, because it doesn't matter how you get to the end. I said this to somebody the other day. They were apologising to me because they'd cut up pieces of wrapping paper, and I said it doesn't matter how you get to the end. And if this is too overwhelming, yeah, it's a nice video to see, but maybe, you know, just start small. Start with your tiny little template and do your edges, or maybe just a shape template. Practice that first and then move on to kind of more and more and more and more. And then you suddenly realise that you've got it all in your armour. You can use IOD products, you can use decoupage paper, you can use stencils and stamps and transfers, you can use them all, and you can also hand paint as well, which means your skill set is you've got a bit of everything, and it doesn't really matter how you get to the end. That's what I think about that. I think that hand painting is good. You can get more money if you hand paint your pieces, but that's not everything. I think for your journey and for everybody else's journey, for my journey, I mean, even I'm trying to up my hand painting game, and for those that are just starting, probably you're thinking, oh, I'm reasonably good. I'm not compared to some people. That's what I mean. I mean, everybody's in a different part of their journey, and it's easy to compare somebody from if who's in the middle of the journey and go, I'll never get there. That's despondency. That's never going to keep your momentum going. It steals all the happy hormones. There's no point doing it, and it's got to be fun. So this isn't an exercising. This is how good you have to be. It doesn't. You can use lots of different things to get to the end here. And if you look at some of my things where I've taken the IOD stamps and I've stamped it and painted it in really bright colours, they really work. You can really do a multitude of different things with those. So that's another way to kind of skin a cat. Anyway, so what I have here is this template, which is here, but now I have to make it this size for the top. So how do we go about doing that? Well, the first thing I did was I measured this square on the top with my piece of paper, but I'm going to fold it. I need to put my glasses down. I'm going to fold it like this because I want to have a sort of fluted edge like I have here. So let me just have a wee look, but I'll fold it again so it's the same at the top and at the bottom. Now, there are times where I just go with scissors, but I won't be doing that on this because I want to get it right. So let's get a pencil. We know this is, when you folded it, you know that this is the peak up the top. So this will be, start that again. So this is our peak because I've got quite a good kind of peak in this one. So here, 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 and let's just do another one that takes us to here. So this is the shape. So now what you need to do, excuse my huge scissors here. Remember in one video I said that Martin had got me a whole set of 8 pairs of scissors? This is what I'm reduced to. I don't know where they go. Where do they all go, Martin?
I have no idea.
The scissor monster. Sometimes they kind of gravitate in the kitchen, but I keep looking in the kitchen and they're not in there either. So get rid of those parts, you don't need them. So let's have a look at what our template is going to be like. So this is how the top is going to look. It's this shape. Yeah. Now I'm going to draw this out in pen so that you can see, which means there could be a lot of mistakes. I'll sketch it out first. So I want this same design, but this time round, instead of it being thin, I want to make it squat. So let's have a wee look see here. I still want the same sort of kind of head shape on my neck, but this time round I'm going to start, start the feathers kind of here. So that would maybe be its wing. Move it up a bit. I think I'm going to do a set of flowers here, so you don't need to worry about this area here. Let's just bring that across here and do something, because we've got a lot more kind of real estate on this one. I don't want them sort of even, so then I'm going to start, so say this naturally ran down about here. I still want to make it look like it's got a whole load of movement, so let's just work out how this is going to come into play here. This is going to be its wing. And you can do things like this. And I'm going to go around this in a pen in a minute so you can see. So I have to kind of keep it straight. So up here, on this edge here, I'm going to do some flowers. Obviously, I need those same leaves that I had before, like this, 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 and this. And then round here and down here, we'll have our berries. So I'm just going to draw it out with I'll draw it out with a Posca so you can actually now see where I'm going. Now, because sometimes I kind of change designs as I go. So you can see, I mean, this isn't, what I'm doing here isn't incredibly complicated. But that's the thing about the hand paint and stuff. Don't overcomplicate it and then you'll be able to recreate it. So I'm going to do this big flower here. And here. I'll have my berries. These will be round when I actually put them into the design. I'm just doing it for quickness so you can see. And the same coming round, something like this here. Round like that. Now this is incredibly rough. I don't mind if there's lots of mistakes because I can fix it on the tracing part. So I'm kind of happy with this. I think I can already see that I'm going to have to take this line in because his head is a little bit big. But that's the thing about sketching it out. So I'll know when I do that it's not this line, it's the centre one. Yeah, and then you can put all these details in when you go to do your paint work, but you kind of get a rough idea. Now, what are we going to do with the edge? The edge, literally, I'm going to do it like I did before, and I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to go around it like this so that we've got that little border that we had on here, because we're trying to make it work that it's all looks cohesive. And by doing the same kind of ideas, it means that you've got the pattern when it comes to doing it on the top of the piece, like that, like that. Yeah, just I mean, don't overthink it. It's not, this is just the starter. You can complicate it when it's actually on, if you choose to. So that's how this is going to look. It's going to have another piece in here. The eye is going to be something like that. And then obviously I need to do things like this. My colours on my feathers, because that is the same as on this part here. like that, I think. Yeah, and obviously you can fill all these in, the parts, the veins of the leaves when you do it. Oh, I didn't do these berries down here, so some berries here. I'm really being rough now, but you know what I mean. I'll make this look pretty when I do it. Now, it's going to be the same deal as before with the carbon paper. I'll just see if I can have a quick shimmy in here. I had the tacky spray, but so all I did the last time literally was I'll remove my chopping board. Don't want to ruin another one. So all I did with this, so I don't know how many sheets this is going to take. Tacky spray, give it a good scoosh, and then make sure it's on the right way. This is the wrong side, which is slightly grey. Oh, it smells quite bad, that stuff. Oh, you don't really want it as wrinkly as that. And I'll just cut this sort of part out here. Make sure it's the right way again. Stick that on there. And then all you need to do once you've done this part is literally, once you've done, that needs a wee bit of tacky spray there. Flip it over, cut out this, and the next time you see it, I'll have done what I did in the front. I'll have transposed it with a biro and we'll see how it fits and I'll get to painting it. Okay, so here we go again. I'm just doing the same thing that I just said. See, I forgot that leaf, so I can just put that in. That's the good thing about this. This is the part where you can completely use your own sort of creative license if you think my template doesn't quite work for me. But you can see what I've done. I've measured it from the top. It's still got the border. It's going to match the front. It's the same concept, same flowers, got the same things, so that when we put the pattern together, I slightly touched this edge up with white, but I think I'm going to paint the whole edge in. I only did this tiny lip. It's not nice. It's not tidy. So I'm just going to take this off and do this whole outside edge white, I think. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to go and trace this and I'm going to maybe start painting it. And then I'll get Matt to come back when I'm kind of like midway point just to show you how it's going. I'm not sure if you can see this here. You can see it, Anne? Yeah, right. Okay, so I'm just kind of using the same template, but it doesn't quite, it's too wide. So I'm just making it sort of work in the space that I have so that I can manage to get a pattern. Sorry, my hand's going the wrong way. So that I can manage to get a pattern going around the outside edge, which obviously kind of works with the front. What's happened on the top so far, it's got its base coat in. Base coats always look a little bit messy. About to do the second coat over the top of this. And then, so I was laughing, Matt was trying to jump over a whole load of paint. And then I'll do this pattern up here. I'm going to be painting this in green. And when it comes to, when I've got the second coat on, I'll get Martin to come back while I do the line art and fix this up and do these shapes here. I've decided this band here, I'm not going to do white, I'm going to do it green because then it will work with the front of the cupboard, so this will be green. But it'll start to be a wee bit more complicated. At the moment it's very crude and it'll start to look a little more complicated once the liner and things goes on it. I'll be using paint liner for the top, not Posca, because it's the first thing you see. So that's what I'm going to do next. And how did I kind of measure these shapes out? I just kind of roughly kind of did it, you know, I didn't do a whole load of workings out or anything. I just kind of thought, right, well, this could go in here as long as this one can fit in here. It's only when it gets on a bit that it becomes a little bit more tricky. And you probably can't see where my hands are going, but I can probably get another one in here, whereas down here I couldn't. And so I had to just do the kind of tip of it. And then maybe just do something like this. So this humble little template has done the whole of this piece of furniture. It's surprising what you can make to keep yourself right, because then your shape is the same no matter what you do. So I'm going to get on, paint some more, and then I'll get Mark to come back at the liner stage. Okay, so I've given my top a second coat, tidied it up. What I did is I taped under this lip and I taped over the lip. It's not something you very often see me do, which is try and make sure that, because normally I'm doing a sort of Indian finishing, but if you want a neat under the edge, you need to have the tape underneath. So I had the tape underneath, so that makes sure that there's nothing that's run under there. And this is the same tape, although I don't think I can use it again now because I had lots of little parts. Can you see it's not all one part anymore? So I just taped that off. Even though it's very delicate finish, I'm being a wee bit kind of careful with it because, you know, it's still tape. It's still on your finish. This one here's got kind of multiple parts on it as well. It's just so that you get a nice edge and it's not running everywhere. Kind of completes the look, I think, when you're doing something that's tidy. And again, it's not often you hear me say tidy, and this is one that you do have to remember. Like, can you see this tiny little part here? I have to fix this. It can't have any of these little boo-boos in it. They all have to go. So I mean, I'm kind of acutely mindful of all of these things, but I'll get to them. So we've removed the tape, and now I'm going to put some liner on it, and I've got my liner brush just here, and I've watered down my white ready to go. Okay, so I'm just going to line it like I've lined everything else, whether I've used Poscas or not, but for the top I'm using an actual liner brush. If you use either your palm of your hand or your arm to steady your brush as you go, you'll get a nicer kind of like tidy. And I kind of just don't like to interrupt the flow. I just like to keep going, because then that way I think it works. I think when I stilt it and I get a stop, it kind of tends to go in a different direction, and a direction maybe I don't want it to go. So I'm going to line this out now so that it's all nice and tidy, and I've got rid of all the sort of untidy edges which you do get. And a moment at the end we can compare and contrast over what we think regarding the Poscas and what we think about the actual liner. Poscas are just make the process a little bit quicker, but if you're kind of like reasonably quick with your liner, then I think it's kind of a moot point sometimes. But Poscas are really invaluable when it comes to doing Indian finishes, lots of things like stenciling. So they all have their uses, and this is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how you got there; it's how you feel at the end. I said something this weekend to a comment, because somebody was saying, you know, where would this go in somebody's house? But in a modern eclectic home, in which I kind of sell to, they go in homes, and the thing is, it's the evidence is the selling. Are you selling? And I was trying to say, look, something like this, I don't produce furniture for the masses. I produce furniture and make furniture for the few, but there are so many few now that I feel like it's the kind of colour revolution is working. It's happening. So I just want to have something like this here, because I did my flowers slightly different on the top. I put a kind of centre in the pink one. So I'm going to do this and line it all out, and I think you've seen enough of the liner. Let's just do this so you can see. But I thought this white band, this one here, was a little bit sad looking, and there's nothing in that kind of works with what I've done. I didn't obviously do where the branches came from when I did I might have to fix that. So I was looking at this and thinking, it's a bit thick, it's not quite where I would like to go. So I'm thinking that I might do something like, I just clean my brush off and just swap if you're really careful, I just kind of use little palettes, like lids off things on my work, but I thought what I could do with this white band, because we've got the berries and the sort of greenery working its way down, I thought I could do it in small like in a sort of small sort of kind of, and do something like this and make it work around this band, something like this. And then I thought what I'd do is I go in with my berry, and I'm using a liner for the berry in this because it's going to be really small. I'm going to have to maybe dip in the water, Matty, sorry. There's not a lot of room to manoeuvre. And do my berries like this. I'm using the very tip of the liner and make this run all the way around, because then there's a nod almost to the front. But then if I clean my brush, if I dip in this green, I can probably do like the little leaves that I did down. I've not got a lot of water in my brush, so I'm sorry, Matty. I just need to grab my spray. Matty's actually right over my head right now. I just want to moisten that up just so that I can kind of show the little leaves. That's a little bit too wet now, but you get the idea. And I thought what I'll do is I'll fill out this border and give it a bit of like kind of tiny ornate pattern, just to kind of finish it off. I'm going to do all the normal. The spots that went into peacock feathers are going to be done on here. So I'm going to finish the liner, do this border all the way around, and then I'm just going to quickly, a couple of minutes, just talk over ceiling, because a woman on a YouTube comment said, but you never show the ceiling. So I just want to show her me sealing the top, and then she's got a general idea of what I do with the sealer. Okay? Okay, so I've finished the top. We've now gone into a full other day, but I just wanted to get it done and sealed. What can I say about the top that you didn't see? I think once I'd done it all and I'd done my dots, I felt that this part here was a little bit kind of flat. So all I did was I did graduating dots. Just wherever you think it's folk art, so you can put them, I put them on the flowers and I put them around there. Just where you think you would like it to be, but that just has kind of like given that a little bit of something up there. Now for the lady that said I didn't show how I seal things, this is my sealer. This is the same sealer I use all the time. I'm going to be trialing a sealer soon because they got in touch with me, but this is my sealer, French Chic Tough Top Coat, an extremely durable, environmentally friendly, flat matte top coat and sealant. This is it. This is what it looks like. I think the lady was asking, you know, what do I seal it with? I'm not quite sure what the question was, but I think I've mentioned this before and how we do it. But this is my sealer tub. Doesn't look very salubrious. Need to give your sealer a good shake, a really good shake. And then I don't put too much in the bottom at once. Probably just I work in little sections. A dish sponge. This is one that I used. I've got a stack of them. Dip it in. Wipe off the edges till your sponge is saturated, and then just wipe it down. Now, if you're worried about Posca pens, what I would do is I would give it a run over with a heat gun first, a heat tool before you. And this is all I do to my furniture. If it's something that's got a lot of detail and a lot of moulds in it, I tend to use a brush. But when it's something like this is how I apply my sealer, just making sure that there's no, and you just give it 2 coats of this, and that is it. It's not a complicated process. In fact, it's quite a quick and easy process. This dries in this heat, because there's sitting behind a heater, it'll be dry in about an hour, and you can just give it another coat, but that's how it looks. It's very light, my sealer. It's very delicate, but it's a tough coat. It's nothing heavy, and this is how it looks. I don't even think you can even see it on it, Matt, and that's how.
A little bit of reflection.
Yeah, and that's it. And I'll just do the same when I get to the front. I'll just wipe it down, and here I'll just go in. I'll show you. When it's like a groove part. I'm gonna probably have to come off my stool. I would do these first because these are the parts that are more likely to have runs. I'll always do the centres. Just wiping it up and down. Don't go up and down in a scrubby motion, just down. Just making sure that you meet where you've been before. Making sure that there's no runs here. Up into here, and I'll open the door in a minute off camera. Got to make sure that it hinges are good. I'm not going to go and do this bottom part yet because I'm going to open it up because I'll have to seal inside as well because it was painted the pink colour. But yeah, that is how I apply my sealer. Just like that, always going the same way. I mean, it's okay to go that way when you're doing that. You're not going to go down that way when you're doing that, but that's how I apply my sealer. Okay, so that takes the mystery out of sealing. So what did we do? Okay, when you're doing hand painting, there's an awful lot of repetition. There really is. There's a whole heap of repetition. So I think I've tried to not make the video too boring, but showing you the way to do it. Is start with a very simple doodle. Sit at your kitchen table. Find something that you really like, you think you can hand paint. Use your carbon paper, transpose it onto the furniture, and then do a simple cardboard template. Just any shape will do. Just a simple shape that you can then enhance with maybe a shape inside that. Suddenly, a very simple, basic design can look really quite amazing. And this is hugely simple. So I managed to do it on all of my sides, and then what I showed you to do was how to take the initial concept and make it a different shape and size just by kind of redrawing your initial doodle and kind of like formula the same shape, just kind of the same formula, but just transposing it into a different shape. It's all very simple. Why hand painting? Because a little bit of hand painting in amongst all the different things can really lift your furniture game, and it means that you've got all the doors open to you. You can do a little bit of everything. You might not, I mean, I'm like me, I'm not good at every single thing, but if I can do little parts of every single thing, then suddenly, you've got quite a good, lot in your armoury to work with. So that's it. The handle got put on. How cute is the handle? It's cute, isn't it? I knew it was going to work really nicely with it, and we put it back over that hole that we did to be able to pull it in and out. Now, funnily enough, as this piece is dried out, the door is no longer stiff. Isn't that typical? But it was a very hard wood, this cupboard, this Edwardian cupboard in it, and it was probably stored damp and in a shed like my stuff is, and sometimes my things can get a bit stiff if they're sitting over my drawers and things. So that's the inside of our lovely pot cupboard with a pole in it, as my dad used to call them, a pole. Anyway, so it's all been sealed, it's all ready to go. I'm going to list it on Etsy and on the website today. So if you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Don't forget to share it. I've noticed on the analytics that a lot more people are sharing our videos, and that's really positive because the more people that you share it with, the more chances are that we can be able to grow the channel. So thank you if you're sharing our videos, but please don't forget to subscribe. Martin, have you got anything to add about this? I think it was a hot minute. It took a few days.
It was a hot minute, but as I watched it evolve, it just got better and better and better. And I think I wouldn't say it's the best thing you've ever done, because you've done loads of amazing stuff, but it's up there. Yeah, it is.
He's biased.
No, anyway, it is. I mean, look at it.
It is nice.
It's the detail, isn't it? It's the being bothered to do the detail, like
it is.
Like all the little dots around the white border there. And
it's the detail, and I think that
and you added those pink and green floral elements around that white border as well. And
and I think that just kind of complemented it. The white, adding the white.
I understand that sometimes it's kind of like it's a never-ending thing, but it's worth it. It's worth it because look at that.
It is. It does take a little bit of time, but I think, as I said in the video, ways to combat the boredom and the monotony, because sometimes, even as much as I love to paint, but sometimes by the time I get to side 5 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on side 4. There's not 5 sides. I want to paint the inside, but by the time you get to side 4, you've really you're a bit over it by then. But
Gotta dig in and get a good audiobook on.
But you can see where it's gone, so it does that last part. You kind of pushes you over the finish line to get it done. So that's today's video. Matt and I will see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Bye bye.